Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It is Ray here at Talking Madrid, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the match. I wanted to go over some of the post-conference with Xabi Alonso, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Dean Howson, and some of the reports of Mbappe leaving the hospital. It's the day after the big game against Al Hilal. It was a tale of two halves. The first half was really disappointing, and Al Hilal was dominating us, whether through the back, the middle, or forward. They were able to exploit a lot of our flanks due to Trent obviously inverting or the size difference with Fran Garcia. And then Xabi Alonso did a few tactical switches. Next thing you know, come the second half, we are then putting the offensive to Al Hilal. I think we did pretty well, especially because we didn't have any Mbappe there. We had Gonzalo Garcia, who I thought did a good job, a very serviceable job. He was somewhat of an aerial threat in the second half, so that was good to see. But ultimately, it wasn't enough for us to get the win. We got the 1-1 draw, even with the late penalty that Fede Valverde was unable to convert. But all in all, I saw some good and encouraging things, and that's what I want to see. Xabi Alonso also stated throughout the pressers and a lot of the interviews prior to that match is that a lot of the things that he's trying to instill in the team, you're not going to see. You're not obviously going to see in the first match. You'll probably see a lot of change towards like the latter stages of the tournament, and probably not even until like halfway through the season are we really going to start to see what Xabi Alonso is really trying to do with this team. But nonetheless, I wanted to go over some of the reports, and first we're going to start off with Kylian Mbappe. So as you know, Kylian Mbappe did not play yesterday. He was a huge miss. I was a little disappointed by that. I definitely wanted to see him under Xabi Alonso, but we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that. But the good news is that Kylian Mbappe was discharged from the hospital this afternoon, and he returned back to Real Madrid's training camp. Mbappe will continue with specific medical treatment and will gradually return to the team's activity. When I first saw that Kylian Mbappe had a fever, I thought it was more towards like heat exhaustion, but it might be, it might be like a whole combination of factors. It could be like he's not acclimated to the heat or the humidity down in Miami. It could be something that he ate, maybe whether it was like at the airport or the travels from Madrid or whatever facility. And I think they're at the Four Seasons Hotel. Maybe he ate something there. Maybe he picked up something from one of the players that came from international break. I'm not exactly sure, but it seems to have really afflicted him to the point where he had to be hospitalized. And I'm really surprised that the medics and some of the physios there in the camp, they weren't able to address a lot of these concerns before it got to the point where he had to go to the hospital. Nonetheless, like I said, they're able to treat him relatively quickly at the hospital, give him whatever he needs to take. I'm assuming he's going to be taking some kind of antibiotics. I heard that Raul Asensio was actually taken off at halftime because he was suffering from fever as well. He was taking antibiotics. So hopefully we can see Kylian Mbappe by the end or like the very last game of this group, at least by the group stage, because we definitely will need him if we do advance. I'm hoping we're going to advance, and I expect us to advance, but hopefully we can see them. He can see him against Salzburg before we go to the quarterfinals. The next article I kind of want to go over with you guys is the interview with Trent Alexander-Arnold. He is getting a lot of flack from a lot of the press, a lot of Liverpool fans, a lot of EPL fans who are just salty about the whole thing of some of their best talents coming over to Real Madrid or La Liga. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to use the X word, but it's a little confusing. I don't also know why Liverpool, like he's one of your legends. He's done so much for your club. I believe he won one Champions League with you guys, 2 EPLs and a various amount of cups. I'm still confused as to why they hate him so much, but he has a lot of flack. And I think it's our duty to be able to, our duty as Real Madrid fans or Madridistas is to be able to protect them from a lot of the noise that comes out. There's a lot of anti-Madridismo around nowadays. Neutral sites and neutral fans and objective observers are not. They're not. There are a lot of subjective feelings going around with this, and they're like looking to bring him down. But regardless of that, we'll go with his interview. Trent Alexander-Arnold made his debut in an official match for Real Madrid against Al Hilal on the first day of the group stage of the Club World Cup. The Englishman, who was introduced as a new player on June 12th, was part of the starting 11 and played 65 minutes. At the end of the match, he said, "Debuting was incredible. Playing for Real Madrid is something that everyone dreams of, and although we were disappointed that we could not win, it's part of Real Madrid's mentality to win every game. There were a lot of positives, especially in the second half." In the second half, we had possession and we lacked that in the first. You have to have the ball as long as possible for the opponent to run. In the second half, we did better. We made them defend much more and we got into the box a lot. Penalties are things that happen in football. No one's to blame. There are things we need to work on, and I'm sure we'll do better for the next game. I agree with all of this. In the first half, obviously, like this is like we had 3 days of practice, 3 days of practice with all the international players really coming back. Xabi Alonso wanted to wants the team to start playing in the way that he envisages the team. So that means a lot of the things that a lot of our players have kind of already been ingrained with playing with Carlo Ancelotti for like the last 3 to 4 years. They can't fall back on that because Xabi Alonso is asking them to do new things. And with the new things, obviously it becomes like new problems because you have to think it's going to take a half a second more, maybe even a second more for you to get into positions that the new coach wants rather than doing the things that you're so much accustomed to. Especially with Trent Alexander-Arnold playing with his new team. Obviously he's not fully fluent in Spanish. So it's probably a little bit more difficult for him to be able to communicate with some of his teammates. He needs to understand their tendencies, and a lot of that shaves off seconds out of a lot of sequences that you most notably would be doing. The support from Madrid fans, it's been incredible. I've noticed that the support from the moment I signed, Real Madrid fans all over the world, you feel that support at the hotel, in training, on social networks. We want to thank you. We had the majority of the support in the stands, and it was fantastic. Yeah, I definitely want to say whenever they went to the crowd, it was all Real Madrid fans. His Spanish, I've been learning Spanish for a couple of months. When I knew I was going to come, I wanted to learn to adapt. It was important to me. New country, new team, and new city. It's important to show you it's important to show that you intend to adapt as best as possible to the culture. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, there's been a whole bunch of noise coming from obviously England or UK about him being fluent. He was not fluent at all. It looked like he was reading off a teleprompter, and even if he wasn't reading off a teleprompter, it looks like it's something that he rehearsed. I think it was a great job by his media team or whether it's his agency. I'm assuming he spoke with Bellingham at length about probably what would be like the best thing for him to do at that conference, especially because I think Jude said a few sentences here and there at his what's it called at his press conference, but I think Trent did an excellent job, and it really did. Like I remember I was watching it live actually, and I was watching it live. I think it was like 3:30 in the morning, and then I was expecting him to obviously just speak in English, and then it took me like about a second or so to be like, wait a minute, this is in Spanish, and every single sentence that he continued, like every single sentence that ended, I thought, okay, he's going to go back to English, but he continued and continued to be in Spanish. So I was really impressed by that, and it showed a lot of it shows that he understands how important it is for you to really try to adapt to the new culture, especially speaking the language and being able to communicate with your teammates and your coach is paramount if you really want to be successful at this club. I say that even with hindsight, with Gareth Bale, he was very successful at the club and he probably really had like a rudimentary level of Spanish, at least with interviews. I heard that he's actually a little bit better if you just speak to him like outside of interviews, but it really shows that Trent Alexander-Arnold put a lot of initiative to understanding the culture and the language of obviously Real Madrid and Spain. So the next one I want to talk to Courtois. Courtois is a little bit more fiery. The second half was better, and that's the line to follow. So we'll go straight to the quote. We created the danger and it wasn't to be. It was a shame that we missed the penalty, but if we keep the line of the second half, it will help us for the following games. The second half was better, and that's the line to follow. I agree with that as well. In the first half, it just looked like we were nervous. We were tired. The heat was was really affecting a lot of our players. A lot of our players were at international break, at least the ones that were starting were at not an international break, but with duty at internationals. So and also, like, this was really the first time they're actually trying to implement a lot of what Xabi Alonso was doing. Obviously, halftime happened, and then we had a lineup change where we took off Asensio. Then we introduced Arda Güler. We moved Tchouaméni back into almost somewhat of like a pseudo back three, with Trent obviously, really inverting. I think we ended up playing like a 3-4-3, to be honest. But obviously Trent kind of inverting a little bit more as a wing back rather than just a right back. And that's when we started to experience a lot more possession. It's our first game together and it's not easy, but they did well. And if there's something to correct, we'll do it in the videos. Their first game was good. Xabi Alonso's instructions at halftime. We have to look for passes and not always want to go on the attack because sometimes it's better to have possession and open up gaps. If you go too fast, it's more difficult to pass. We did that better in the second half. I agree completely. Bono's penalty save. Fede has a very hard and strong shot. The goalkeeper beat himself before, and he saves it for that. It's a shame, but Fede has to hold his head high and continue. I agree with pretty much everything that Thibaut said here. I believe there's actually more to this interview, but I think he spoke about how the team it's used to a lot of the automations built from Carlo Ancelotti, just because Carlo Ancelotti has been the coach for the past 4 years, and obviously he's been with Xabi Alonso probably for the better part of at least 3 days. So a lot of the things that they're learning in training have not been ingrained, so it's going to take longer for them to fully understand what he wants them to do. And I do agree with him as well. I thought Hoyson had an excellent debut. Trent, a little not excellent, but I thought it was good. A lot of the things that he does really well, we didn't actually set him up for success, like at least the most. Because when you watch Trent with Liverpool, a lot of times the assist that he would get would also be like it would be like a chipped ball over the top for Salah to run onto. And there are differences obviously in the way that they play in the EPL as well as how we play in La Liga. Obviously, we're not in La Liga today. We're playing against Al Hilal, the Club World Cup, but there's a lot more space in behind. And in Spain, a lot of the times that's not so much the case. A lot of the teams in La Liga sit in a low block, so that's something that we're definitely we have to fix. I know in the second half with the changes that Xabi Alonso had, where he actually put him more as a wing back, and then we asked Gonzalo Garcia to really pin back the center backs and ask both of our wide forwards to essentially hug the lines. That long diagonal to Vinicius was on all second half, and that's when we really started to see a lot of the strengths that Trent's possessed, especially with his dynamic passing range. Fede, and also on top of that, like having Fede shoot the penalty, I was very confused. If anything, I thought just have the striker on the field, Gonzalo Garcia, be the one to take it. He's probably the one that has probably the best eye for goal on the team because he's a natural forward, or have I probably Luka Modric. I know Luka Modric, I believe, missed his last penalty, so I was like, I understood, like, yeah, maybe he doesn't feel as comfortable with that, but for whatever reason, we gave it to Fede. I think maybe because he was the captain on the field at the time, or no, I think no, actually, he wasn't. Modric was on the field, so never mind. I take that back. But yeah, so we just had Fede go and try to blast into the corner, and it wasn't particularly a good PK. And hopefully that he keeps his head held high and maybe next time give it to Gonzalo Garcia because he was the one who was scoring. He was the one being put in great positions all game. So hopefully we can figure that out. Obviously, if Mbappe comes back, Mbappe will be the first set piece taker. Just really quick on Gonzalo Garcia. Obviously, he won the superior man of the match. I thought he had an excellent showing today. I think it really highlights the fact that Xabi really wants to have a traditional number nine. He could have done what Ancelotti likes to do, either probably by playing two up front or just moving Vinicius to in the middle and then having Rodrigo and then Rodrigo on the left and Arda Güler on the right. But in this case, he opted to go with the only lone forward that we have with the squad and put Gonzalo Garcia there, keep Vinny on the left, and have Rodrigo on the right, just so that they have the isolations to go 1v1 with the outside backs. And I thought it was a very smart move. And just with his presence, you can see now, like when we cross the ball into the box, we at least know that someone is going to at least make an attempt to go for the header. Mbappe is not that type of striker. He's not a traditional striker. I believe Xabi Alonso called him more of like a positional number nine rather than actual like traditional number nine. So he usually likes to cut back. He looks for the cutback rather than the back post header or like the burst into the near post to be able to tap it in if there's a cutback. That's not really his game, and hopefully that's something that he's going to learn. And we'll see actually what happens with Mbappe when he comes back. Will Xabi Alonso opt to keep Gonzalo Garcia in the traditional number nine role in the center, have Vinicius on the left, and potentially put Mbappe on the right, especially with the strengths that Trent has would either playing the ball over the top into space for Mbappe to really exploit that pace that he has. But just really quickly, in the second half, we pressed much more and we deserved 3 points. So the first goal in the Xabi Alonso era, he said special, but not only for scoring the first goal of the Xabi Alonso era. It was special game for me to play for the first time as a starter in this shirt. which is everything to me. I hope I can continue to add more minutes and contribute personally to the team. It was all quite fast. I found a passing line with Vinicius Jr. and a good counterattack from all my teammates that fortunately ended in the goal. I thought the whole play was really good. I think it ended up being Trent intercepted the ball back in like the right flank. He played a great line breaking ball to Gonzalo Garcia, who was checking all the way back, which a lot of our forwards do not. Like most our forwards do not pick up the ball like 10 yards away from our own box. Picked up the ball. He carried the ball, probably beat one man, and then he got pressured by the second. He played it to Vinny. Vinny and Valverde were side by side. Vinicius laid it off to Valverde. Valverde was able to poke it out to Rodrigo, and then Rodrigo was able to play a very early cross in with the correct amount of weight to Gonzalo Garcia, who was checking his run to make sure that he was onside. And I will say it was a little lucky, but I'm still happy that the Castilla player was able to put that ball and I think it really helped with his confidence for the remainder of the game. I thought he had a really good game. But as he continued, he only told me to stay up in the last line, fixing the center backs and taking advantage of any ball or mistake by the center backs to score a goal. And that's what I was talking about. When you have an actual forward that is like right up against the center backs or just trying to hug that line or like trying to run in behind on their back shoulder, that causes the center backs to stay there. When you have a forward like Mbappe that is going to continually check back into the in the midfield, sometimes that causes the defender then to follow him in there, and then you can have obviously the other defender strain that, or you can have the defensive mid come and strain that. But it also clogs up the middle of the pitch, where you really want Jude to be able to be in those half spaces to collect that ball. And so many times, because you had Gonzalo Garcia pinned up against one of the center backs, and then Jude was allowed to kind of fill into that half space in between, the defensive mid and then the center back, and then Dean Housen was able to play that line breaking pass, like that skipped that first initial pass to get into Jude, and then Jude was able to pick up the ball on a half turn and actually play Vinicius in, where Vinicius actually got that yellow card, or be able to play Gonzalo Garcia in. And I think he took a poor touch, which actually took him away from goal. But if he had a little bit of a better touch, or it was probably if Kylian Mbappe probably would have taken a better touch, that probably would have been another goal. So, like I said, I think this is going to be something that we're going to see quite often with Xabi Alonso, where he has a traditional number nine to be able to pin the strikers there. So then you're able to have our midfielders kind of sit in those half spaces and really then start to distribute the ball and key passes or balls in behind for Vinicius or Rodrigo or Mbappe or whomever is going to be playing. He continued to say that Asensio is a great teammate. He's also shown that, like the rest of us who made our debuts this season, we are ready. All the players from our academy, Castilla, Real Madrid C, Juvenal A, have been able to contribute. Quite happy for me, for Asensio, and for the rest of my teammates who have also added minutes. That's very true. I'm assuming that Asensio and a lot of the players that came up, Jacobo Ramon, were able to speak to Gonzalo Garcia. I think Gonzalo only really featured for us last year in Copa del Rey matches. I know that he scored what was it, that winning goal. I forgot exactly who we were playing, but he scored the winning goal, and I think he was wearing our orange jersey right here. Um, but yeah, so I don't think he's had a lot of chances with us in the first team, but I think that every single time he actually does pretty well. I'm still obviously we're gonna watch him as this tournament progresses. I don't know if he's going to stay with us this upcoming season, because I heard a few reports that a few teams are interested in him. I'm of the thought process right now that I would rather get an experienced forward, like in the ilk of Ante Budimir or even Samu. I'd probably even take Samu too, just because of sheer size and physicality and aerial presence in the box. Even though I think he does have a good aerial presence, but he's only 6 foot. When you start playing some of these defenders that are 6'4", 6'3", like whether it be the EPL or some of these other top elite clubs, I do think that we need someone a little bit taller, a little bit more physically imposing, and to really exploit the strengths from Trent or from Housen or whomever is going to be crossing the ball in. Because I think Gonzalo Garcia had a few chances about off that, obviously as a header, and then I think Bono was able to save two of them. But I believe if you had a more physically imposing forward like Ante Budimir, who I believe is about 6'3", 6'4", obviously those 4 inches obviously would probably help with probably him scoring that chance. And then the big one from Xabi Alonso. I liked the reaction at halftime. So the first question is, what is your assessment of Trent and Howson's debut? First of all, congratulations to them because it's an important day for them. Debuting for Real Madrid will surely mark them. I'm happy because they have the personality and they're going to be important players. Having them with us is going to give us an important leap in quality. I think that's 100% correct. They're both ball playing defenders and they're excellent at, they have so many different ranges of passes, whether it be short, medium to long. Outside, inside of the foot, both of them, both of them can pass with their weak foot. I can't even half the time I can't even tell what if Houston's right or left footed. Definitely a huge increase in quality when it comes to passing and ball progressing out of the back. What did you like most and least about the team? There's no doubt we already knew it. Anyone who thought everything was going to work perfectly, we knew what things were going to work well and others that we have to keep working on to improve. Through having quality with the ball and better handling, we were able to impose ourselves. In the first half we didn't manage to do that. I think that's kind of self-explanatory. That is very true. I think one of the things that they did not do well, obviously, is in the first half the ball progression. I don't think Tchouaméni, Valverde, and Jude did well enough in the first half, and they were able to kind of run through us. We didn't really protect our flanks, and we were very vulnerable to transitional attacks, especially when we were trying to progress the ball and have some possession in the mid block, and we lost it. We were very vulnerable down the flanks because Trent was always inverting, and then obviously the height disadvantage with Fran Garcia out on the left flank. But obviously, like I said, with some tactical tweaks after halftime, we were then obviously the team that was in more of the possession. What did you like the most and least about the team? There's no doubt we already knew. Anyone who thought it was going to work perfectly, oh, did I enter breathing that? Okay, keep on going. Did you feel frustrated in the first half when you didn't see what you rehearsed these days to come to fruition? It's not frustration. We know it's going to take time. On the other hand, in the second half, I saw a reaction. Things we've talked about, we could have done better. Everything takes time and repetition to make it a little more relevant. We've been in training for 9 days with just 3 training sessions, and this is a process. Obviously, we're demanding results because we're in a competition, but what we also want is to learn and know what we want to be. Very good. We need to understand the philosophy of what the coach is trying to bring. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit more time. Only 3 practices. That's not a lot of time. He says that we've been training for 9 days, but that's not even the entire squad. And a lot of these players that actually still a few players that were in the starting 11, this is their first game with obviously the players that with the first squad, the first 11. So everything's going to take a little bit of time, but obviously because we're Real Madrid, we're expected to win, and we have a magnifying glass, especially because we are the biggest team in the world and the biggest team in this tournament. Where did you identify yourself? More in the second half than in the first. The good ball handling, the width, the balance, and the players between the lines being able to attack corridors in the loss play higher. That was a little bit more what we were able to do. In the first half, it was more difficult for us, no excuses, but it was very hot. It was also a difficult game to get into rhythm. Asensio, for example, was in period with antibiotics and was suffering in the first half, and that's why the change. Vinny Jr. had cramps in the 70th minute. The conditions were demanding. Alha also ended up very melted, and we end up a little bit more power, and that's what I'll take with me. Yeah, I touched on this a little bit earlier that Asensio was also sick and was taking antibiotics. I know a lot of people, and even myself before the match, I didn't realize that he was sick and he was on antibiotics. I thought that Xabi Alonso was really just kind of sending up a message to the team that, if you're not on it and you're not really focused, then yeah, well, I'm going to make that change. But, I give him a little bit more grace. That penalty, I think, was a little soft, but also, you have to put yourself in a position to where you're not being beat like that inside the box. When it was Vinny Jr., I also heard that he wasn't fully fit coming from Brazilian international duty, and I'm not saying that excuses him from running or not pressing well, because I know there's a few videos that are circulating, and I think I also retweeted one recently where Jude Bellingham was running into the space, and then he was looking to play the ball into Vinicius, and Vinicius was just literally watching him and not really making a run, or even when Jude ended up losing the ball because they were able to close him down, Vinicius wasn't running, and then Jude had to go bust the lung again to go be able to get the ball back again. For me, like, that can't happen anymore. I've watched it for an entire season. I kind of gave Vinny a pass because everything that he's done in the past, because of all the great performances he had the year prior when he should have won the Ballon d'Or. But in this new era, we need people to run. I'm also in agreement with Xabi Alonso about If you don't run, you're going to be taken off. And even if Vinicius is a world-class talent, if he's not going to run, Vinicius, Mbappe, Rodrigo, whomever is going to be playing, if you're not going to sacrifice for the greater good, or you're not going to sacrifice for the rest of your teammates, then you got to get off. I'd rather have Brahim Diaz there and run his tail off, or Fran Garcia run his tail off for the rest of the team so the collective ends up winning, rather than having a Ballon d'Or candidate. I really don't care. In the end of the day, I've been here and I've been supporting this team since the days where we used to get knocked out in the quarterfinals. None of these players on the team were even there. They're all playing at youth level. I've been watching this team. I think, Jude was like 5 years old. I've been watching this team for 15 to 16 years. We're getting knocked out by Liverpool like in 2008. I think it was Gerrard and Torres were just scoring. I think it was like 5-0 or something like that. We're losing to Marseille, Lyon. We had Manuel Pellegrini back then. So I need these player FCs. I'm so sick of these player FCs. Like, maybe I need to get away from Twitter and X and all of that. But these players FCs have somehow infiltrated the club, whether it's because of the three-peat and everyone likes the bandwagon. But like, none of that anymore. If Vinny's not going to run, take him off. If Rodrigo's not going to run, take him off. You already know Jude and Fede are going to run. Tchouameni's going to run. Trent, if he's not going to run, take him off. We need to get back. We can't have another season like we had last time. But let me get to the end of this. Pachuca. Almost all the teams in the group are with new coaches. Al Hilal, Pachuca. Last year, Madrid played against them in the Intercontinental, and it was an even match. In the end, we won. Every team has a great level, and we saw today it will be demanding. That is very true. You cannot write any of these teams. I wrote out Al Hilal because I thought we were going to play a lot better. I also thought, obviously, we'd have Mbappe. I think if we had Mbappe in the team, obviously, I think we would have won that game. But we probably won't see him until at least Salzburg, or probably even the game after that. So we have to find solutions, and we have to find those solutions rather quickly. So we can't, we have to do 100%. The heat is going to bother all of us, but, Real Madrid, and we have to prevail. And then, what do you think about Al Hilal's level of play? It didn't surprise me because I've seen quite a few games. Also, with the new coach, they have players who have played at a top level, and they're a very good team. Yeah, they have a lot of good players. They heavily invest. I know Al Hilal at one point had a super team in the Saudi League, and I think they won the league last year. I don't believe this year, but I believe that they won it last year. I know a few of their players actually ended up leaving, but they still have a high quality. And I think Inzaghi is a great manager. Inzaghi systems, we had doubts about whether he's going to play with 3 center backs, as he's done at Inter with great success. Al Hilal is more used to playing with 4. We talked about different scenarios, but we're not very clear. That is true. He played with 4, but I'll definitely say that Lodi and the one on the right hand side, they were bombing up and overloading both our flanks. What do you think about the 2 penalties? I haven't been able to see him. Fran's live penalty did seem to me. The other one caught was a little bit far away. There are fundamental plays, and the first one is avoidable. Yeah, it's very true. Like I said, Asensio had to do a little bit better with his positioning, not to be able to get caught out like that. For the first one, it was still soft, but you never want to put the decision in the ref's hands. Then obviously for Fran, like, he was bleeding. Like, even if he like, I saw that he didn't want to actually call it, but he had to because Fran was bleeding. If Fran wasn't bleeding, they were not going to call it. But fortunately, we got the penalty, but unfortunately, we weren't able to convert. What needs to be improved for the next game? The difference between the first and second half was the balance with the ball. We were more stable with the ball in the second. We had longer possessions inside out, getting a little closer with them. In the first half, the ball didn't last too long, and they were gaining more weight, more air. Today, the day was difficult to press. In the second, as a result of growing with our offensive play, we were better. It wasn't enough, but it was better. Yep, it was kind of repeating a lot of what's going on here. In the first half, we played pretty poor. In the second half, we made some tactical switches. We start overloading a little bit more in the midfield. We got Arda Güler would have a little bit more technical quality on the ball, and that's when we were really able to start, getting a lot of meaningful possession in the middle third, and then the final third. Can a 17-year-old like Mastantuono be a starter in a team as big as Real Madrid? Time will tell, but of course he can start, or he can come off from the bench. Our idea is that he helps from the start. We have great expectations. He will arrive in August, and we will have things clear, but we are happy. So when I first saw this quote, I was like, wow. Our idea is that he helps from the start, which is good. We have great expectations, and he'll arrive in August. But of course, he can start, or he can come on from the bench. I think the quote that I saw, and this is just translated from Google, so I'm not exactly sure if this is a mistranslation, but for the quote that I did see that on Twitter, it said that, yeah, we're expecting him to start. So when I saw that comment, I was like, wow, like, he's kind of just putting it out there that there's only one place for him to start. which is the right wing. So is that more of a confirmation to what I already believe is that Rodrigo is going to leave? Um, but like I said, I don't speak fluent Spanish, and I've seen the interview. I mean not the interview, but the press conference. I don't speak fluent Spanish. I'm not exactly sure what he said or if he meant it like that. But I do believe that we need a right winger. I think that was probably one of the most evident things from watching this game, and I'm about to rewatch the game as well too. Is that like there's a threat from Vinny on the left because he's just relentless and he will continue and continue to try to take on his opponents. I believe Vinny has like the most amount of successful take-ons in La Liga last season. And then Rodrigo, on the other hand, Rodrigo isn't really, he isn't that type of winger. He doesn't really like, he doesn't have the physical attributes to be able just to push the ball past the outside back and just beat them purely on pace. Like he's quick on the ball, and I think he's really good in tight spaces of being able to play with his teammates, like with Jude or the Mbappe, like nice little like 1-2s and be able to get a quick shot and stuff like that. But like just as a winger, 1v1 solo, isolated and on the flank, he never beat the man. I think if the stats, I don't think he had it one successful dribble. I don't think he beat anyone off the dribble. Like I said, I think he had that one shot with his left foot that went right above. So we definitely need like a right winger. And I think obviously Franco Mastantuono is definitely going to be that for us. Even with Mastantuono, when I was watching River Plate, even he struggled to beat the man on the outside. A lot of times he would go cook the ball and then make probably a diagonal run towards the middle, and he likes to drift inside. Obviously, to hit the shot with his left, similar to like Lamine Yamal or a lot of players like Vinicius, who likes to cut back onto his right foot and be able to take that shot or play a player back, behind the line. Do you count on Mbappe for the next game? We don't know. We have to know how his recovery is going. In the last few days, he hasn't been able to train well. He's been bad with a significant viral process, and we have to see it. Like we spoke about earlier, with his medical report that came out, that he just got out of the hospital, and he's going to be taking some treatments back at the training facility. What do you think about the temperature of the matches? It's clear that it's not the best temperature or the best conditions or the best time to play football. We know that it's not just a sporting decision to play at this time. And I think that's a very professional answer from Xabi Alonso. I don't think that the weather is conducive for these athletes at all. I think these are just for TV watching purposes, so that the people in like other parts of the world are able to watch it. Obviously, I mean, even the places that they play these games, like they should have made it. They should have made some kind of concessions. Like if you're gonna play in like Miami, you're gonna play it down in like Atlanta and like down over there. Like you have to at least make the games a little bit later. And even I guess even in California as well, it's extremely hot. It's not as humid in California, but if down there in Miami, down there in Atlanta, when you're playing with that amount of humidity and that heat, causing players to cramp and players just be dehydrated, and you need cooling breaks like every like 20 to 25 minutes. It's not conducive to the players, especially after a lot of them were playing an entire season and a lot of them playing international duties. It's not safe, and I could see a lot of the criticism for this tournament. I think in theory, the tournament is good. I've been enjoying not all the games, but majority of the games. Maybe the only game I didn't really enjoy was the Bayern versus Auckland City, just because it was such a mismatch. But the rest of the other games, I think, have been really competitive and has actually been highlighting a lot of the talent across the world. But other than that, I think the timing of the games, the stadiums also are hurting it. But I'm hoping we will see better, obviously better crowds, better attendance, and better coverage when the knockout rounds happen. But anyways, that's all I really wanted. I wanted to talk to you guys about, just kind of about the press conference, like my thoughts and attitudes of, the game yesterday, what needs to be improved on. Hopefully Mbappe comes back by Salzburg. I think we had play on Sunday, then I think the following game is going to be on Wednesday. So I think he should have like another 7 days to kind of recover. We'll see. Maybe he just sits on the bench, and if we're able to handle Salzburg and we don't have to bring it in, then maybe that's probably the best bet. But other than that, you guys let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe down, and obviously the comments below. I really do appreciate your guys' feedback, as well as what you also want me to talk about. If you guys like these press conferences to go through and kind of hear what the coaches are saying and what some of the players are saying after these matches, please let me know by hitting that like bell, and also clicking that bell, as well as leaving me a comment down below what your thoughts are on whatever topic that we're kind of going on. But I guess all I got to say is, a la Madrid y nada más. Peace.